Do you have the paper? I call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the September 16th, 2025 business meeting of your Ashland City Council. The land acknowledgement will be offered by Councillor Kaplan.
We acknowledge and honor the Aboriginal people on whose ancestral homelands we work, the Ikirikutsin Band of the Shasta Nation, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here today. We honor the first stewards in the Rogue Valley and the lands we love and depend on. Tribes with ancestral lands in and surrounding the geography of the Ashland watershed include the original, past, present, and future indigenous inhabitants of the Shasta, Takelma, and Athabascan people. We also recognize and acknowledge the Shasta village of Quakaka, where the crow lights that is now the Ashland City Plaza.
Thank you. And Councillor Dale will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Sherrill,
Here.
Dale,
Here.
Bloom,
Here.
Mayor Graham,
Here.
Kaplan,
Here.
Duquesne,
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Thank you. For mayor's announcements, the first announcement is if you have come this evening and would like to talk to the council, the way that you do that is to sign up and bring your sign-up slip to Alyssa with that little tray there on the fence. The sign-up sheets are along the wall there. Please, when you fill them out, indicate what you are here to talk with us about. So if you're here because of a specific agenda item, please list that agenda item. If you've come here to speak to the council about something that is not on the agenda, you'll come up during public forum, so please indicate that on the form. Doing so makes sure that we bring you up at the appropriate time so that you can address the council on the issue that is important to you. We also have an announcement about a previous issue that we had expected to be dealing with this evening. The public hearing and first reading of Ordinance 3272 relating to 1511 Highway 99, Planning Action Number PA-T3 2024-001 00011, which was postponed from the August 19th meeting, is continued to November 4th, 2025. And now I would like to offer a proclamation in honor of Constitution Day, Citizenship Day, and Constitution Week. Whereas September 17th, 2025 marks the 238th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention in 1787. And whereas each year on September 17, Americans celebrate Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, reflecting on the rights and responsibilities of citizenship and what it means to be a U.S. citizen. And whereas the Constitution, along with the Bill of Rights and other amendments, defines our government and guarantees our rights. And whereas Constitution Week commemorates the eventful week in 1787 when the Constitution was signed, delivered to the Continental Congress, and made known to the people of the country. It laid the foundation for the birth of a new nation and became one of the most significant chapters in our shared history. And whereas it is fitting and proper to offer official recognition to this visionary document and its memorable anniversary, and to the celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas our nation's military service members, elected leaders, and civil servants across many disciplines take a sacred oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And whereas the Constitution belongs to we the people, and no president or other elected leader has the authority to rewrite the fundamental guarantees enshrined in our founding charter. Now, therefore, I, Tanya Graham, Mayor of the City of Ashland, do hereby proclaim September 17th, 2025 as Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, and September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week. I invite all citizens to spend time this week with our Constitution and discuss with friends, family, and neighbors what this document means to our democracy and how we can work together to protect, and defend it. In Ashland, we are better together. We move on now to the approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes? The floor is open for a motion to accept the minutes. Councillor Bloom?
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Hanson,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Sherrill.
Yes.
We are now to the consent agenda. Would any counselor like to remove any item from the consent agenda? Counselor Hanson?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move item C, advisory committee member appointment, please.
Okay. Any others? Okay, the floor is open for a motion to accept the remaining items on the consent agenda. Counselor Hanson?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the remaining items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Dale,
Yes.
Sherrill,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
And per our process, the item that has been removed will be added to the agenda under the unfinished business section towards the end of the agenda.
May I speak to it really quick?
No, we'll take it up a little bit later, but when we get to the unfinished business section. So we now move on to public forum. Thank you, Alyssa. Okay. We have 6 people who have signed up. We have 15 minutes to speak. So each person will get 2.5 minutes. And you'll come up to the microphone on this side here. You'll have both the clock above you will give you your time signal, but also you'll have a monitor next to you that tells you green, yellow, and red. If you're green, you're still good to keep talking. When you get to yellow at 20 seconds, that's an indication that your time is coming to a close. And then when it turns red and you hear that second buzzer, please finish the sentence you're on so that we can move on to the next person who has come to address the council. So the first speaker we have is Lita Shapiro, followed by Sharon Bryson, Clarinda Maripin, and Paul Mozina.
Hi, is the mic working? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Hi, everyone. I come here tonight to just talk about one particular issue. I was out of town at the August 19th council meeting, so I missed all the stuff about the funding and all the history about the 2200 Ashland Street building. I'm sorry, I'm like talking on my own without reading. According to the Ashland's fiscal management policies, the contingency fund is to provide for unanticipated, no recurring expenditures. And when it was discussed in funding the 2200 building, it said that possibly overages would be drawn from the general fund contingency fund and stated a current balance of $1,256,376. So the minimum contingency to be maintained is not less than 3% of the average annual operating expenses calculated over the last 3 years, which I calculated at $1.654 million. So assuming I've not made an error, which is always possible, it's already $400,000 under what is required in the contingency funds. The city is suggesting using the contingency funds to cover any underfunded needs for 2200, which, considering the contract is not fully funded as it is, appears unlikely. I ask that this depletion of contingency fund balances be looked into, as well as other possibilities to fully fund the build-out construction expenditures. To use these funds so early in the fiscal year does not leave much time to replace them in order to have funds for the next unexpected expense, which in these times really needs a plan for the future. I also would like to note that when approving a contract that is not budgeted, there needs to be an appropriation to fund it prior to approval, a budget reconciliation report, which has not been done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sharon Bryson. I am a resident of Ashland. I'm probably going to go over my 2.5 minutes, but the moral of my story, I have a story, and the moral of it is, please increase your skepticism when staff or city manager comes in front of you. And the reason I say that is my story is starting now. In this room, I don't know how many months ago, but there was a meeting that it was with the Parks Commission and Council, and Mr. Houston was doing a presentation, and he was giving numbers of different activities, participation in activities, and the numbers just didn't make any sense whatsoever. And so I sent Mayor Graham an email, and I was asking, I said, who's responsible for fact checking? And I was told that it was the city manager was in charge. And I'm missing lots of little details, but that's okay. I think you guys got an email about this. And so Coffee and Conversation this last week, this is the disturbing part for me. Whether the numbers are right or wrong, I don't care. Well, I do care. But I was at Coffee and Conversation. I was speaking with city manager, and I was saying, wait, the numbers weren't right. We were given incorrect numbers. And she started to kind of explain, and then here comes Jordan, and all of a sudden they started talking to me about the numbers did make sense, because at the senior center, the Meals on Wheels were using the senior center kitchen for the entire county. And that's where they were getting the numbers, that they were using that kitchen, and it just didn't make sense. So it was we were told $2,000 or 2,000 meals a day when it was really 2,000 a month. And Rocky emailed back and he said, well, it could have been incorrect. But what troubles me is that both the highest paid folk in our city administration were sitting there and telling me something that was so not true. And it just didn't make sense. I know the kitchen where the meals were prepared, and it was a huge industrial kitchen. So I called the COG.
Thank you.
Yeah, I understand, but I called the COG, and it's not true.
Thank you. Clarinda Maripin, Paul Mozina, followed by Eric Novikis and Daniel Gibbo.
Hi. In June, I was very privileged to witness Councillor Sherrill's swearing in. He took an oath, the same as I hope all the rest of you did, to support the charter, the ordinances, and the rules and procedures of the city of Ashland. That inspired me to read the charter. In Article 19, it creates the Park Commission, and in Section 3, funding, it states that the commission shall file a monthly report, which shall specify all funds on hand and the sources from where it was obtained. It shall carry a clear statement of all monies expended and for what purpose. All purchases and all labor performed, together with the cost thereof, shall be embodied in this report. I searched for this report online by calling several counselors and by talking to the recorder's office. And was directed to the city finance webpage that shows all of the monthly reports. But these reports only show funds and their health and omits the required details of the monies expended and for what purpose. Why is this important? When the town created the charter, we gave a tremendous amount of power and independence to the Parks Commission, far more than most cities. To allow the city council and citizens some slight oversight, they created this one required report with very specific details on a very specific timeline. Other than the co-land management of the Shakespeare Festival, this is the only check and balance on the Parks report in the charter given to the council. Just think about that for a second. The only check and balance in the charter. Now, the solution is very simple and doesn't require a vote, a discussion, or even an agenda item. Mayor Graham, simply tell the parks that they need to go back to publishing this report. Councilors, Madam Mayor, let me be very clear. By allowing the Parks Commission to ignore this responsibility, you are not only in violation of the vow you took, the oath you took, you break the law. Far more damning than any of that is you give up your power to govern your own city by not having this information. And because you represent us, you give up our power. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Mosina. I live in Ashland. And at the June 16th City Council business meeting, I voiced my concerns about how the mayor, council, and city administration handled amending the 2025-2027 biennial budget that had been approved by the Citizens Budget Committee. They violated the Oregon Revised Statutes, Ashland Municipal Code, and Ashland Charter. And although none of these legislations prohibit lying to the people, the council and the mayor condoned a lie from the deputy city administrator when she claimed that you had amended by motion the budget that had been approved by the Citizens Budget Committee. There was no motion, no vote. You amended that budget without appropriate motion by the council. And you all condoned that lie when you approved those minutes on June 16th. You approved the minutes for the June 3rd meeting that said there was a motion to approve this budget change. There was no such motion. And the mayor is obligated, as the leader of the city, to make sure that the laws are enforced and that the city administrator does what they're supposed to do. And Mayor Graham, you failed to do that in this case because you did not hold the deputy city administrator accountable for misrepresenting what happened at that study session. There was no vote, no amendment. And so I explained this to the councilors, and on July 2nd, I got an email from the city attorney purportedly explaining the legal reasoning for why the council failed to have a vote when you amended their budget. And the email was so pathetic, but I'm glad that the city attorney read it on the record because it puts that pathetic comment on the record. And I sent you an email, and I have it here. I'm going to be submitting it for the record today. I sent you an email explaining how wrong the city administrator was in attempting to defend you. One of the first things is that the study session, I'm going to run out of time, but I did deliver this in an email to you. I hope you read it. I haven't heard back from the city administrator, and I'm going to put it on the record and so that people can read it. I'm running out of time. That's okay, but it's too much to get into in 2.5 minutes. The point is that the council did not follow the Oregon Revised Statutes, the Ashland Municipal Code, or the Ashland Charter, and you condoned a lie when the deputy city administrator said that you had a motion and you did not.
Thank you, Mr. Medina. Next up is Eric Navikas and Danielle Gibeau.
Okay, Council, thank you for your dedication to our city and the opportunity to speak before you. I'm bringing up the Community Watershed Protection Project again, and this is something that concerns me very deeply, and the position that the city's taking on this. And I think this is something that should be brought forward for another vote, and it only requires 2 council members to do that, because I believe that your staff really didn't give you objective information about the previous position of the city of Ashland on this, which was very clear. What I am discussing is the McDonald Peak Roadless area section, which is the upper parts of the watershed. These are the steepest, most sensitive areas of the watershed. And the Forest Service completed what was called Rare 1 and Rare 2. It was an inventory, roadless area research and evaluation inventory of these remaining roadless areas that had a potential to be dedicated as wilderness areas. And the McDonald Peak roadless area was included within this and considered an exceptionally critical roadless area because it is in a wildlife connectivity corridor along the ridge line of the Siskiyous that connect to the Cascades. So what the city had previously said, they were very clear in their position that in the roadless area, we will minimize the nature of management actions on these lands to prescribe fire and limited light touch handwork in small diameter under 7-inch DBH understory fuels and vegetation. This is not the position the city has presented in this current community watershed protection plan. In fact, we've gone to an extreme where we're talking about commercial logging in the upper parts of the roadless area section of our municipal watershed, and we're talking about removing large amounts of overstory to increase our water supply. That's a very controversial scientific position that isn't supported broadly by the scientific community. So under the current conditions with the Trump administration looking at gutting the roadless rule and moving toward aggressive logging more than likely, considering the Trump administration in these roadless areas, it is very critical that the city continue to maintain its position that we're only going to allow non-commercial work in these upper parts of our municipal watershed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Danielle?
Madam Mayor, City Council, just two things. I'm here to represent about 10 of the tenants that live on 4th Street between the fire department and Main Street and B Street. It's a complete thoroughfare there. We've had 9 of our animals killed just in the last year. My cat was killed right in front of me a few months ago. They don't even stop. It is a complete thoroughfare. They're going at highway speeds through there. I would ask that you task whichever department it is to come and set up 4-way stops at 4th and C, 4th and B, and 4th and A, because B and A are also a problem. But 4th Street is particularly, because of the way the city's designed, it's the way that they can get down to where they're going. So we have very big, heavy trucks coming down there that you can hear them when they turn the corner at the police department or the fire department, and they just gun it. Anybody stepping out or a child or anything, it would be over. They wouldn't be able to stop the thing in 500 feet. So I will leave that with you, please. And if necessary, I mean, we would love it if they put in the speed bumps, particularly between C Street and B Street, because it's a down, you know, the angle of the street is also very encouraging for those that like to drive fast. Second thing, the meth labs that are in this city. I'm living right next door to one, and I have been unable to do anything about it. There was an explosion 3 nights ago and another one 3 nights before that. I have 2 inches of drywall, one on each side, separating me from this nightmare. This is a property that is managed by Pacific Rental Properties. We have called. This is the 4th drug dealer. This is a drug trafficker. This is a very organized situation there right now. And nothing is being done. So it is the property management that needs to be brought to task. There have got to be some regulations put into place that forces them to enforce their leases, because they do nothing about it at all. And they're endangering all of us. They don't even clean the properties up. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now to the first public hearing. Public hearing and first reading of Ordinance 3273, an ordinance amending the enhanced law enforcement expulsion process as outlined in AMC 10.120. Sabrina?
Mayor and Council, this is a follow-up from the study session on the proposed ELIA changes. Chief O'Mara and our city attorney will walk you through the changes, including what this is and what this isn't. We are looking for a vote to move this process forward tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Ty O'Mara, Police Chief. I don't have a whole lot of information to present because we've been over this so many times before. So I've just got a couple of slides. I want to start with what this proposed ordinance is not. It does not remove judicial discretion. It leaves the decision whether someone is expelled from a geographically defined area up to the judge. It does not remove that. It does not expand any area. There are currently 2 enhanced law enforcement areas in town. One of them is roughly downtown, and one of them is roughly the Ashland Street Business Corridor from Siskiyou to exit 14. The proposed changes do nothing to add to that. Those areas are set via a different part of the ordinance that we're not talking about tonight, so nothing is being added. Nothing in the proposed changes limits anyone's ability to seek vital services, just as the current version of the ordinance does, and just as the judge has the ability to carve out variances from an expulsion. It's written in that anyone subject to an expulsion may go to the grocery store, obtain medical services, social services, go to church, go to work. Nothing prevents them from doing that. It does not create any area. It only does one thing, and that's the crux of today's conversation. The way that I have presented this and the way that I view it is that there are 3 pieces to this. The first piece is the chronic negative behavior. The last piece is a judicial-based expulsion. The only thing that we're trying to adjust is the middle piece, and that's the mechanism by which that expulsion can be applied for and potentially issued by the judge. Currently, the persistent violator tool is conviction-based. At first, and I will accept this as a misstep on my part. At first, we tried to go with the Medford model, which was a mistake. I regret that. That's not right for our community. This is still judicially based, 3 or more qualifying violations, distinct incidents. In a conversation that I had with the counselor today, we got into this, and I want to be clear that it is my intention, and if the city attorney believes it is not adequately spelled out in the ordinance, I would suggest that an amendment be added that if an officer comes across someone who, for example, in one instance is smoking marijuana, has an open container, and has an uncontrolled dog, that does not qualify. It has to be 3 separate, distinct incidents that demonstrate chronic negative behavior. So at some point, Johan, I'd like you to weigh in on that. 2 or more non-person crimes, so that would be 2 or more low-level misdemeanors like trespassing or shoplifting. 1 or more person crime, which is something like an assaultive crime. A felony or unauthorized burning, which is a misdemeanor under the recently passed city ordinance. That basically says if someone is in an enhanced law enforcement area and the police department can substantiate that they caused a fire which got out of control to the point where it required emergency services, police or fire to come and extinguish it before it did vast damage, then that by itself is a qualifying offense. I, again, want to emphasize that the proposed changes do not impact somebody's ability to travel through an area or to obtain needed services, social services. One of the only pharmacies is in Cap East, Rite Aid transitioning to CVS. There's some grocery stores there. We would never want to interfere with anybody's ability to obtain that which they need to survive. So I have everything else on the thumb drive, and I can get into anything else, but that's the meat of the conversation and the decision that we're putting before you today. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's all I have.
Questions? Councilor Bloom.
Yes, thank you. I have 2 questions. They're kind of related. First one to kind of lead into the second part. Under the current conviction-based system, how long can it take before an expulsion is even possible? And what happens in that time with repeat offenders?
Well, what we have found and what I think I demonstrated with the examples that I provided, which are in the packet from the February conversation that we had, getting 1 let alone multiple violations through this court, can take a long time. It can take several weeks to several months. Getting criminal charges through, especially the circuit court, and we need to remember that previously it was only criminal convictions through this court which qualified. Now it's criminal convictions through any court. Getting criminal charges through can take well over a year. It could conceivably take a couple of years depending on what the charges are and what that unique situation is. And so what we have seen, and again, I believe that this is demonstrated in the examples on 2 slides that I provided in February, is that people who are continuously demonstrating negative behavior time and time again, while it plays out either in this court or in another court, they're left to their own devices, continuing to engage in the negative behavior without the police department and the city having a mechanism to mitigate that negative behavior.
Thank you. And then the follow-up, because I think it's important to provide some context here. So there are over 730 cases pending in that Ashland Municipal Court, 141 individual case hearings scheduled for this month, for August, 213 new cases, and 124 cases were adjudicated. That's all. And I think that kind of helps paint a picture of why it takes so long for us to be able to issue the expulsion. So the question being, do you believe that switching to this system will help the judge reduce that revolving door problem and be able to process cases in a quicker manner?
That is what we believe will happen. That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that giving the ELEA tool as it exists now is a good tool. I'll say that all day long. It has helped for the last 12, 13 years since it was created. Giving us this tweak to the current rule, to the current law, will allow the officers to be more reactive, better responsive, more quickly identify the chronic negative behavior, directly petition the judge for the judge to make that decision, get the person served with the expulsion order, allow them their appeal process if they want to use it. And that is the hope, and it is certainly my belief that this will be a tool to cut down on the recidivism and the chronic negative behavior that we're seeing out of individuals.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Kaplan.
Yeah, I've got a few questions. Some are just really confirmations of what you said. I just want to make sure that we get those that I got those absolutely correct. That the Exhibit A and Exhibit B that are referenced in the draft ordinance do not involve any change to the current borders of the west or the east Elia.
Correct. There are zero, and just to further clarify that, at one point we had a conversation about adding the front lawn of the library and that park area across the street and the building to the southeast of the library. That is not part of this conversation. This conversation is strictly about the procedural change. There's zero geographic modification.
Thanks, Ty. I understood that. Just wanted to confirm that.
Yes.
The second is, thank you for referencing this question about the separate incidents, because I did have that question, had a conversation, not with you, somebody else must have had that conversation. I had it with the city attorney. I don't think that it is clear in the ordinance, so I would actually be looking for some adjustment to that. My reading of it is that those 3 violations could happen on the very same day or at the very same moment so I think clarifying that if they're separate incidents on different days would be the best approach forward.
Yes.
So I appreciate your bringing that forward. And the next question, it has to do about not inhibiting people from getting needed services. And I'm a little confused by that because there is this reference in the expelled person is actively traveling through the applicable Elia. For Elia West, this travel exception is limited to those traveling in a vehicle or on a public transit while using necessary street or highway to reach a destination outside the Elia West area. So that sounds like public transit is getting more and more limited, unfortunately, given the cutbacks from Rogue Valley Transportation District. Not everybody has a car. Some people get around by bicycle or by walking. So I'm trying to understand what the purpose of this kind of restriction is. Number one. The second question I have about access to services is the way they're described. Some of them are to let's see, to actively pursue or obtain social, medical, pharmaceutical, groceries, or other services reasonably deemed related to the needs of the person, not otherwise available outside the applicable area. Well, we received some email, and I think you've probably seen all these emails as well, questioning about whether there would be access, for example, to the weekly meal that's often offered at Trinity Church. And I'm wondering if that qualifies under this language. It seems to me a little ambiguous because deemed reasonably related to the needs, for sure. Not otherwise available outside the applicable area, I'm not so sure about that. So I'd look for some guidance and maybe some clarification of that, because I assume that it is not the intention to keep people from taking advantage of meals for people that need meals in our city.
So the first question, if I'm getting it correctly, we're trying to figure out why there's a delineation between somebody can only travel through downtown on a bus and somebody can travel through Ashland Street Business Corridor.
No, I didn't say anything about Ashland Street Corridor. I said that there's a limitation that you can only travel through the downtown on a bus or in a vehicle, and it doesn't contemplate the possibility of a bicycle or a pedestrian or walking through. And I'm wondering why that is, given that there are limitations in RVTD service.
My best recollection is that when we were trying to craft this, which was before Johan was here, I think that maybe the previous city attorney came up with the bus through downtown because out of recognition that a lot of people like to walk out Ashland Street and hitch a ride, and we didn't want to interfere with that. I am not opposed at all to modifying that. I agree that it's confusing, and I want this to be as straightforward as it can be, so I'm not opposed to cleaning that up in a potential second reading if it gets that far. As far as the participation in a meal, I would defer to Johan about that.
Do you see the reference?
Down in section B2. Section B2, I think that would qualify to services related to the needs of the person. I mean,
it's the clause that says not otherwise available outside the applicable area. So that particular meal is not offered outside, but there are certainly meals available outside the area. So is that going to be a restriction on that person being able to take advantage of meals that are offered by one of our charitable organizations?
Well, just so we're clear, the judge can modify the variance in any way he sees fit. If he wants to say your variance is including, receiving any free meals that are available to you, anything to help you find employment status, and those variances can be addressed at any time without any cost to the individual. So that if they find out there's a meal program available, it's every Wednesday at noon, they can certainly say, hey, I come in on Wednesdays at noon for this meal, and that variance can be granted.
So in terms of process, it would be incumbent upon the person who is being charged to actually list all of those specific variances that they're looking for?
I mean, yeah, they would have to get granted the variance. They couldn't just come up with them at the time of,
Hold on just a second. I'll remind the audience that this is a formal public meeting, and that means we have certain decorum so that we can hear and the council can do its business. The audience is not to make noise and is not to talk. If you need to have a conversation, please take it outside so that it doesn't disturb our proceedings. Thank you. Carry on.
Well, that was kind of it. I mean, they would have to list the reasons why they want to be in the area. I mean, I don't know how many meal provision places are around in that area, but I think they could say, I receive free meals, and some of that takes place in the area, and if that's why they were there, that would fit within the variance.
So I guess I'm troubled by the idea that this is something that has to be at the initiative of the person being expelled, and it couldn't just be a blanket exception. If you're getting a meal from a social service agency, why would we need to?
Well, I think if it's not actively spelled out. What I was saying is if you don't find it actively spelled out within there, so you're not going to have to write down, hey, I need to go to work, hey, I need to go to church, hey, I need to receive medical treatment, mental health counseling, any of these things that are, kind of spelled out. But if there's, an additional reason that you need to be in there, if you needed that spelled out, I mean, I think too, you have a number of ways around this. That we simply explaining, I'm here for this service, it's going to be quite obvious. you know.
Well, I guess my concern is that the consequences of getting it wrong for the person who does get it wrong is trespassing, which is a misdemeanor. So that's all, so if somebody is expelled by judicial determination based on this process that you're proposing, and they didn't put in the moment, they didn't put in that they're going to go to the Trinity Church on whatever it is, Wednesday, to get a meal, that if they go in, that could be a consequence of that could be that they could be considered trespassing for having violated the terms of the ILEA. And then that's a misdemeanor, a much more serious consequence.
Could I make a suggestion, Counselor? Since I stepped into everybody's business yesterday, I'll continue to do the same thing today. I would suggest you make an amendment that language includes social service-based community meals and just clean it up. I understand what you're saying, and I think that would be a good way of addressing it, so there's no ambiguity around it.
Okay.
Councillor Bloom.
Yeah. Chief, there's been some misinformation suggesting this ordinance could be used for camping or licensing violations. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, very specifically, prohibited camping is not a qualified violation. And I'll take it further. I wouldn't have a problem seeing the recently risen to the level of misdemeanor prohibited camping violation be excluded from the list of misdemeanors if that doesn't make it too complicated. I know that that's a sore subject for people, and I get it. So it is not a contributing violation. Third offense under the recently adopted municipal code has prohibited camping being a misdemeanor, and I'm not opposed to that being excluded from something that contributes to an expulsion. Despite everybody's insistence, I'm trying to be reasonable on this and just craft a good tool for the officers. Dog license required, that was another mistake on my part, and no, that is not a qualifying violation either.
Thank you, Chief. I don't necessarily think that that's necessary. It's very clear what violations qualify under this, and if we start getting into the conversation of what's not included, it would be a very long document of a lot of different ordinances.
Do you have a question, Councillor?
No, it was a final statement. Thank you.
Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief. I appreciate your patience with this long process. This is all new to me. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a housing advocate. Really started from scratch here, trying to dig in and figure out the lay of the land. Over a decade ago, we came up with an ILEA for downtown. There was a lot of work involved, and it took a long time. We came up with something that the community, found acceptable. It seemed that the data suggests that behavior changed downtown. That's why we've added the cap east. And it's been in existence for how long now?
Since January.
Since January. So just to remind the community, yes, we have expanded the ILEA. It is in Cap East. We are seeing some data come in. We have some numbers here. Now we're talking about adding to the process and giving officers more tools, as you put it. We get a report from the judge every month. And it says that last month in municipal court, there were 141 case hearings, and of those, 124 cases were adjudicated, brought to conclusion. So I haven't done the math there to figure out a percentage, but it's a high percentage of the cases that have come to the judge are dealt with now in our municipal court. It seems like our Judge Mulkins is very efficient, and I hear he's thorough and fair, but the data shows that things are moving pretty quickly.
Do you have a question, Councillor?
My question is that I'm concerned about the constitutionality of giving the officers these tools, discretionary tools, and it seems as though we might get ourselves into trouble if we see repeat offenders, but we're not responding, more like being proactive in profiling. And what is it? Tell me, I'm not a police officer, so what is it like when you see a reoccurring, alcoholic that's not housed and you see beer cans next to him? is that just automatically open container? I'm still concerned that we're getting too close to the edge with a human's constitutional rights to just be.
Okay, I'm going to try to answer all of that. I recognize that with Judge Mulkins in here, things are running smoother. I would speculate that, yeah, it's easy to get everything ripping through the system and disposed of when people are participating in the process. The thing that we're more trying to address is people that are not participating in the process, ask for continuances, ask for delays. That's where the drag on comes in. Yes, if I get a ticket and I want to participate in the process, I want to handle my business, I'm going to be in here in a timely fashion, and I'm going to be part of that very high percentage that gets my case adjudicated quickly. But if I'm, on the other hand, more predisposed to chronic negative behavior and I don't care about the sanctions that I get, I'm probably not going to take care of it quickly. As far as the second part, one thing that I would touch on and something that I'm proud of, and I certainly want the Ashland police officers to take enforcement action when they think it's appropriate, but historically over the last several years, less than 50% of enforcement contacts with observed offenders result in some sort of enforcement action. So going through a stop sign, speeding, drinking in public, smoking weed in public, prohibited camping, blah, 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 less than 50% of the time that results in a citation. I believe that the officers have established a good track record of trying to get compliance through education before they take action, enforcement action. As far as the constitutionality of this goes, I would just remind council and the public, well, yes, of course, that is something we should be concerned about. This proposed change is much more reserved than Medford's current program is. Medford's program has been challenged in federal court and has been deemed by the federal courts to be constitutional. And so that would be much closer to a quote unquote edge than we are, and we are much more conservative than that. And Johan, I know, will back me up on that. The last thing that you said, no, if you come across somebody who's intoxicated and there's a pile of empty beer cans next to him, you cannot make the inference that that person should get a ticket, because you can't substantiate that that person was in possession and was drinking it. So that person would not get a ticket. And if any officer issued such a ticket, I'd have a problem with it. And I would think that the prosecuting attorney sitting over here would have a problem with it also. So it's on the officers to conduct sound investigations, be able to demonstrate the person's intent to violate the law, and only then take enforcement action and bring somebody in here.
Okay, and a couple follow-ups really quick. One is, thank you, Chief. One is procedural to the packet. A point of clarification in suggested actions and motions. It does not say to move to second reading. It says to move to approve Ordinance 3273. So just wanted to point that out for my fellow councilors. This is moving to second reading if that's what the council so chooses. And then I just wanted to also just ask Johan about this case in Medford, because all cases are so specific to the case at hand. And that particular case was upheld, but I mean, in a broad sense, we still have a liability and a responsibility within any kind of procedure that we adopt, because it's a case-by-case basis, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that case was upheld at a number of different levels. It was actually a class action, or attempted to be a class action suit brought against the city by, I think, 7 unhoused individuals. But we took a deep dive into both Judge Ben Bloom at the state level, or at the circuit court level, and then Judge Clark at the district court level, into their opinions. I read those opinions numerous times, and really we focused when drafting this ordinance on procedural and substantive due process, really protecting, carving out those constitutional safeguards. And really what that focuses on is notice. And we've been over the notice requirements in the statute. There's multiple instances of notice, and we'll get to that. Yeah, the expulsion itself won't even take notice until it's personally served upon the person. There's also a chance to contest at a hearing, and then the court must find that the qualifying violation is referred before they sign off on the expulsion petition. We also, after conversation with this council, like Chief O'Meara mentioned, went and really focused on the substantive portion, like the right to appeal and variance being done free. So there were no financial barriers to seeking those at any portion or at any point throughout. Obviously that would also be heard by an impartial decision maker. Really, we took the good portions of what they did and kind of expanded on them and made it very clear and spelled out to have those constitutional safeguards spelled out in the ordinance.
Thank you.
Councilor Sherrill?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, Chief, just a couple of questions. The due process is really important, and I received a lot of phone calls and emails and stops in the grocery store to ask about that. There's a lot of concern in the community. And reviewing everything, it appears to me that it's potentially just moved downstream a little bit. Can you talk about the opportunity that maybe a repeat offender would have to exercise their right to what would be fair to state their case, and the appeal process, how long that would be, if it's still going to be free? Can you just touch on those few things?
Yes, thank you. So historically and throughout it, since its inception, the way that ELEA violations have worked is the officer comes across somebody committing a qualifying violation in an ELEA, which historically has been downtown. If the officer takes enforcement action on that person, the officer gives them a ticket and gives them a pamphlet that says, you have committed a violation, a qualifying violation. This is the framework of the enhanced law enforcement area and potential expulsions. If you continue with this chronic, or as of yet not chronic, but if you continue with this negative behavior, the city might make application to the judge to have you expelled from this part of town. At every step of the way, the person is given that historically. And council has seen the proposed modified, simplified language to be included in the pamphlets going forward, potentially. When the person, that would continue under this proposed change. When the officer has the qualifying events documented and the officer decides that he or she is going to approach the municipal court judge, the defendant would be approached and served with some piece of paper, as of yet undetermined, that says, hey, I have documented this negative behavior. It's my intention to go before the municipal court judge tomorrow, day after tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm going to state my case for you to be expelled. You are welcome to show up and state your case why you should not be expelled. Then I would show up, the defendant would potentially show up, the judge would make a decision. If the judge decides to issue an expulsion order, that order would not be enforceable until that defendant is personally served and given an opportunity to comply, and only when that defendant is personally served and we can verify that they've been made aware of the expulsion order would the no charge to appeal, 10 days to appeal, clock start ticking. And so you have the education all along the way that this is the steps that I'm potentially going to take if this behavior continues. You have the opportunity to go before the judge and state your case right along with the police officers stating their case. And you have the no fee appeal within 10 days, that clock only starting after we know you've been served and know about the expulsion order. So there is ample notification along the way and ample judicial review and ability to participate in the judicial process built into this.
Thank you, Chief, for the clear answer, and we appreciate you coming with good faith to change some things. And the second question would just be, would you be willing, if this moved forward, to come up with some kind of quarterly report so we can really assess this, and if it's not working, we can change directions?
100%, yes. Thank you.
Councilor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Chief. My question is something that my colleagues have kind of touched on, is that the process. So once someone is in front of the judge, and this is not the first or second or third time, can we consider deflection court? Is there anything that we can suggest And our judge, I applaud him, he does do a great job. But to be able to suggest some type of deflection, you don't have to necessarily be thrown out of this area. You have choices. I think I've attended the court a couple of times, and I've seen where someone was, had been in front of the judge several times, and to be able to offer them, you know, you don't go to jail, you go to rehab. To be able to help them to help themselves. Right now, it's kind of like a revolving door. And I understand this has been in place since 2012, but what's the end game? And so I think if there was some type of option like that in court, it would be helpful. And so have we considered anything like that?
Well, so my best answer to that is that being expelled is not in and of itself a criminal mark against somebody. Being expelled is just telling somebody, here's a civil order telling you to stay out of this area. If the person stays out of that area, there's zero trouble or ramifications that comes with that. So I'm not sure where the deflection comes in on that. If the suggestion is that if I see repeated chronic negative behavior and I go to the municipal court judge and I say, this person has demonstrated repeated negative behavior in a certain area, if the suggestion is that the person be allowed to say, well, I promise I won't do it again, well, you've already been given that opportunity. That's why we're here in the first place. But just getting the expulsion order now is not any sort of a criminal mark against somebody. It doesn't appear on any criminal history sheet, any rap sheet or anything. If the person abides by the rules, then there's zero ramifications.
Exactly.
So I don't know that there's any need for deflection from a judicial order saying, don't do something again, don't do this behavior. If you don't do that behavior, then there's no sanction that comes with it.
And so if I part two.
Johan, did you have something
Well,
to
and I
add
was
to that?
also just say that the deflection program is great. It doesn't really tie into this on its own in that it requires at least a nexus to drug use, and there's other qualifications that go along to it. So writing into the ordinance would be really tricky in that it involves things like not currently on supervision, either crimes directly involving drug use, or a nexus to either that's admissions or other activities that can draw that connection. I do think it's a great program and something we can explore. I don't think that we can tie it into
this. Thank you. And really quick, part two of that would be looking at de-escalation. For instance, if I'm an alcoholic and I'm somewhere and I'm trespassing and I'm drunk, I don't know I'm trespassing. Is there any part two to that, Chief? Is there any way that, Gina, get out of here, you're trespassing, you're drunk, or how is that handled?
I don't know that I can answer that to a satisfactory level of specificity. The officers are all trained in procedural justice. The officers try to look at the totality of circumstances. Like I said before, the officers have a good track record of not taking enforcement action unless they feel it's necessary. In the end, if the officers have to be reactive to the objective facts of the criminal case, then they're going to be reactive to that. And that might be something that somebody were to say to the judge during an expulsion hearing, yeah, I know Your Honor, I'm dealing with this issue and I'm trying to deal with it, and that affects my decision making, so please consider that. I think that's a valid thing to bring up with the judge during an expulsion hearing. I don't know that we can build something into this other than foundational, conscientious police work that the officers already engage in.
And mental health issues?
Yep, sure.
Also?
Yeah, everything, mental health, substance abuse. I will note, and this came up recently from the mayor asking, I would remind everybody that we have some level of partnership with the Addiction Recovery Center where anybody that wants to can walk up to an Ashland police officer. You can turn in any illicit substances without criminal sanction. You can say, I'm done with this addiction, I want help, and we can't promise you treatment today, but we can promise you an interview and an assessment today at Addictions Recovery Center. And to speak further to this, we were approached about this telemedicine substance abuse service. And so we, the police department, asked IT to put a Wi-Fi antenna on the Grove building so the Wi-Fi could penetrate out here because Wi-Fi wasn't getting out there. And then we approached Sabrina and the IT department and said, do you have any cell phones that we can, through this program, give away so that we can try to open the door a little bit to people getting substance abuse? So we're trying to be at the forefront of this stuff, of trying to partner with people and help them, better themselves on those fronts. That doesn't stop the need for us to also enforce the law and mitigate the negative behavior.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chief. And it's my understanding that at Addiction Recovery Center, if someone is addicted to opioids, they can go there anytime and get medication they need to help stabilize their addiction.
I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yes, we found that out, so yes, thank you.
Councillor Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I hope everyone in this room and everyone watching and everywhere is deeply troubled, beyond deeply troubled by the systemic, attack on the integrity of our institutions. And I think we're watching the complete reckless and dangerous behavior play out in real time. And quite honestly, it's scary and beyond frightening. And I see us having policy discussions, and we can agree and disagree with policy. But one of the things that I would like the chief to speak to, please, and one of my questions is as I see an attack on the institution of the city and what we're trying to do in law enforcement here, and calling into question, officers and flaunting the Constitution or people's civil rights because there's zero accountability. Somehow there's zero accountability to that. I'll speak to it later and how much I disagree with that. But Chief, I'd like you to, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind taking a moment and speaking to, we heard earlier about the oath that counselors take. Will you speak to the oath that your officers take, your leadership, and the layered accountability metrics that are built into your organization so that we have an institution that protects everyone, please?
I'll try to. That's a big topic.
I know.
Every police officer takes an oath of office and swears to uphold the Criminal Justice Code of Conduct. And at the Ashland Police Department, we up that a little bit, that we require officers that come into this department to recite the Criminal Justice Code of Conduct, which is not, as I understand it, a requirement of the DPSST, the licensing body. They have to recite the oath of office. The reason that we do that is because we want that new officer and we want everybody listening in the room to be reminded of how we are supposed to be doing our jobs. So later this week, there will be a swearing-in ceremony for our newest officers in this room, and Officer Kinney will have to recite that, and he will recite it to me and everybody else that's in attendance, including a bunch of police officers, and we will all be reminded to do the job the right way. I'm going to take a little bit of a path here, but I want to paint a picture. When I became chief, I was exposed to specifically two relatively new fields of study or relatively new fields. One of them is called fair and impartial policing, and that deals with teaching police officers and indeed anybody that wants to pay attention about implicit bias and how implicit bias can inform your decision making if you're not aware of it. And so we all have implicit biases about everything and everyone, and we need to be aware of that. And if we're not aware of it, then that can inform our decision-making. And if we're aware of it, we can mitigate that subconscious decision-making impact. And there's much more to it than that. And the other thing that I was exposed to is a field of study in law enforcement called procedural justice. And procedural justice holds that every person involved in a law enforcement interaction, regardless of their participation, if it's a victim, a suspect, a witness, or whoever, everyone is given their voice, everyone is given neutrality in decision-making, everyone is respected, and you never challenge anybody's dignity as a human being. And the reason that's actually one that I kind of added on at the end with some encouragement from a national police leader, but that's because we all know that when you challenge somebody's dignity as a human being, that's really when their hackles get up and bad stuff starts. And the studies prove that people don't care about what happens to them. People care about how they're treated while it's happening to them. And the way that transfers over to law enforcement is that if you're respected and your voice is heard and you're given neutrality and your dignity is not challenged, when it comes time for me to say, turn around and put your hands behind your back, you're much less likely to fight. And so we don't have to use force as much. And the reason I'm talking about this is because it does speak to the character of the police department. We were among the first in the state to pursue this and to mandate that everybody in the department go through this and other trainings. And as such, I was invited because I am an instructor in both fields, and I'm the one that brought it to the department in the city and brought it wider to Jackson County. I was invited to participate in a statewide work group to redefine the basic police curriculum at the police academy that everybody here goes through, to include those as foundational pieces so that everything else is built on top of that instead of all of the nuts and bolts of being police officers. They said, we want to make things like fair and impartial policing and procedural justice integral to the foundation of new police officers, not afterthoughts. And so that's the current system that I'm proud to say the Ashland Police Department participated in establishing. And we continue to try to be at the forefront of looking at things holistically and compassionately. We have red flag systems in place to track uses of force. We have fostered we all hear horror stories about unions covering up bad police officers. Well, I'm here to tell you that the relationship we have with the police union had the president of the union hearing in this room, hearing one of his union members lie under oath 15 years ago, the president of the union, and he walked next door to the police chief and said, we've got a problem. That's the relationship and the character of the union that we have here. And that by itself speaks volumes, that we're not going to tolerate people amongst our ranks that are violating others' rights. And there's always going to be a slip up, an officer is going to drop an F-bomb or be rude or something. But we really do strive to have a good, compassionate, forward-thinking police department that treats everybody with respect and holds each other accountable.
Councilor Kaplan?
Thanks, Mayor. I have a couple of questions. I want to say I object to the notion that anyone in this room and asking these questions on this policy are doing it out of any disrespect for the institution of the police, APD, and the city of Ashland. I certainly have not done that, and I would defy anyone to show that I have. I have two questions. One, as a result of the question that Councilor Duquesne asked you, and she posited a possibility that she used herself as an example, that perhaps she might be an alcoholic and drunk and didn't know where the borders of the ILEA was and kind of wandered in. I think that was the gist of her example. And you responded that she, in this case, could go to her hearing with the judge, not the hearing, the hearing for the expulsion order, and make that case to the judge, and the judge could take that into account. Did I fairly represent what you said?
Yeah, that's how I intended it to be conveyed.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a little, so let me read the ordinance, because my understanding is slightly different, that the judge doesn't actually have that sort of discretion. I'm looking at 10.120.040, and it says, upon a preponderance of the evidence finding that a qualifying event exists under the previous clause, the court shall enter a judgment expelling the person from the applicable ELIA. It doesn't really give any discretion to the judge. Is that something that we could give the judge? Because I think that would be a reasonable thing to do. So let me ask the city attorney.
I actually heard the hypothetical a little bit different, and I heard it as she was entering into the ELIA not knowing, and so that would be therefore then a trespass, as you put it earlier. And so we should clarify that the ELIA doesn't do anything for either the underlying convictions, nor does it take away your ability to challenge in a criminal court any trespass that would be entered against you. Those are completely separate convictions. So if Counselor Duquesne did have that happen, her defense, sorry, I don't want to keep using you as an example, but you would still have to, that trespass, if cited, you would still have the opportunity to fully defend that case. So entering into an ELIA while intoxicated, while I don't recommend it, is not a violation. So that was my understanding of it. So to answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That helps. I appreciate the clarification. The second question, and you actually alluded to it in your response, that there are two separate processes. There's a process of asking the police officer asking for an expulsion, and that could be granted based upon a preponderance of the evidence the judge would consider. And then what happens subsequently is there's going to be an opportunity for the individual to come back to the court and defend themselves against the original violation or misdemeanor. And that could involve that person being found being acquitted. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if that person is acquitted, what happens to the expulsion order? Is it a separate, does the person have to appeal to get the expulsion order terminated, or is that automatically terminated?
So the expulsion order can be revoked by the issuing
authority. Where are you?
The very last, or not very last section, section G. No, sorry, not section G. It's .060. So essentially, at the time, since it's going to be in front of our municipal court judge, that could all be tied in together. They can revoke it at that time.
I'm not seeing it. Sorry.
.060.
Yeah, I see A, violation. That's the misdemeanor.
Old one.
Is there section 2 or severability, codification? None of that seems to be it. It must be something else.
Section 10.120.060, it's under revocation of expulsion orders, I think he's looking at.
Yeah.
I don't see it. Can you read it?
Yeah, it says an expulsion order may be revoked by the issuing authority if it is determined that the expulsion order was issued in error, the conditions for expulsion are no longer applicable, or the offender has demonstrated rehabilitation or changed behavior that no longer poses a threat to public safety or property.
That sounds good. I don't see it in my copy of the ordinance.
Okay.
It's in my copy.
On page 6, right?
Yeah.
Page 6 of the ordinance, towards the bottom.
Yeah.
I think the confusion is that there's multiple drafts in here.
No, I'm looking at the correct draft that we've been talking about. Page 6, it starts with section 2, severability.
Am I looking at the wrong section?
Scroll down.
That's page 7 for me. Scroll up a little bit. Well, anyway, that's intended to be in there. There's a whole section on it, but yeah, there's,
So, Alyssa, are you determining that it's not in the public? Because I'm reading from the packet. I'm not reading from some other previous version.
It's in the packet, but it's the draft ordinance dated 9/16/25 at the very top, persistent violation.
That's what I've got.
What page is that in that document, Alyssa?
Page 4.
Page 4, okay. Yeah, I don't see it.
I can email it to you real quick.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If you can email it to everyone so that we're making sure we're looking at the correct document. So it would seem that now would be an appropriate time to open the public hearing and take testimony? Okay, great. And do we have that language in any of the documents that are in the packet?
I don't.
Because we have several versions.
Yeah, I'm right.
Okay.
I'm looking
Well,
at-
I'm going to open the
I'm-
public hearing while that gets sorted. We have several people who have signed up to talk. Alyssa, do we have anyone else who has signed up to speak at public forum?
I have a late arrival if you want it.
Yes. The people who have signed up to testify at this public hearing will follow the same process that people followed earlier with the public forum. You'll come up to the microphone. Please state your name and the city in which you reside. You'll be given,
It's August.
is from the August one?
August. It's not
Okay, so counselors, that's where that language is in the
20
August version.
August 2025. It's not October. It's not September 16th.
Okay. Yes, okay. So let's go ahead and start the public forum, or the public hearing element. I open the public hearing. Each person will have Each person will have 2 minutes to state their concerns. One of the things that we do in these chambers when we have an issue that is of particular importance to a number of people who've come is that one of the things that helps us understand how deep the feelings are in the audience is that we do allow, while we don't allow for talking or signs or a variety of different things, one of the things that you can do is to offer the universal sign of applause. It's just right here. That signals to the council that you agree with something that the person who is speaking has said. So feel free to do that as you go along. Just know that there is no appropriate response if you disagree. But we will go ahead and get started. Alyssa will put 2 minutes on for each person, and they will receive the initial chime will be at 20 seconds. So when you hear that first chime, you have 20 seconds left. Please complete your statement at the end of your time. We will go in this order. We will start with Daniel Green, Julie Gillis, Rich Rohde, and Noah Wertheiser. Again, please state your name and the city in which you reside at the beginning of your testimony. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Daniel Green. I'm the rector at Trinity Episcopal Church, and my views expressed this evening are my own and not those of Trinity Episcopal Church. I don't fault the council members or the chief of police for introducing this revision to the ordinance. As I see it, they are simply taking the path of least resistance according to the conventional wisdom of our times. And the truth is that we at Trinity Church have acted similarly. At least twice in the last 2 years, we have gone to the Ashland police to request trespass orders against an unhoused person. Our customary efforts to show understanding and kindness to all people were, in these specific instances, met with repeated disrespect of our property and of our people, to the point where we felt incapable of managing their presence in a way that felt safe to us. We just wanted them gone. But we are not proud of this fact. We recognize it as what we call in our tradition a sin. We felt compelled to make this choice, but understood it as a consequence of our entanglement in a diseased social order, which is collectively failing the most basic tests of our moral responsibility and political imagination. The original ordinance has evidently been adequate, or else there would be no need to enhance it. But we may have the most ethical and conscientious police officers in the nation, and that won't change the fact that we are relying on policing to address social problems that cannot be enforced away. People who are suffering the lifelong consequences of childhood poverty, trauma, neglect, and abuse need services that the police cannot provide, and we are not providing them in a measure adequate to the need. One thing is certain, this measure will do nothing to stem the rising tide of dispossession, displacement, and poverty in our communities, of which our unhoused neighbors are only the first signal of distress. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Julie Gillis. I'm a resident of Ashland, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the Rogue Action Center, where I work, and where we spent the last several years supporting the survivors of fire, helping community members engage at the local level, and uplifting queer voices across Jackson and Josephine counties. I'm here tonight to ask you to vote against this enhanced law enforcement area. Our organization supports and is run by youth, people of color, queer people, and especially people with disabilities, all of whom will be disproportionately affected by the changes being proposed tonight to the city's ELEA. While the police department's November and February PowerPoint presentations in tonight's packet include details, data, and graphs of prior crimes and the number of expulsions over several years, they unfortunately fail to include the disproportionately demographic information that would show that these are affected to the disproportionately people of color, queer folk, and youth, and people with disabilities. These people in our community already are vulnerable and disadvantaged, and providing more tools and leeway to law enforcement is not the solution, especially during these times, when our states and municipalities' autonomy are under new attacks on a weekly basis, and our president is issuing executive orders to jail or warehouse the homeless. Cities like ours must provide protections and support for these targeted communities. We should not further enable persecution and punishment. We urge you to vote no.
Thank you.
Good evening, councilors and mayor. My name is Rich Rohde. I'm a 40-year resident of Ashland, and I'm a member of Southern Oregon Housing for All, SOFA. SOFA is an organization of volunteers and advocates who've been volunteering at the Night Launch since its beginning. We see daily the difficult struggles that face our unhoused friends in Ashland, and we are here tonight to urge you to vote down this exclusion ordinance. SOFA is one of nine community groups that have signed the Peace House letter of opposition to the LEA. Ashland is and should remain a city of welcome, inclusion, and hope. This exclusion ordinance is the opposite. I additionally would like to make two simple points. One, mental health issues are an important consideration. I learned at the NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, meeting yesterday that 26 to 42% of unhoused have some mental health issues. Exclusion and threat just makes this worse. We need to continue to build on the outreach and emergency mental health services now available in our county. That's the first point. Second point, we should have an outreach court like we have in Medford. An outreach court is a specialized monthly court session that connects individuals with social services and alternative to fines and jail. SOFA and 8 other groups hope that you vote this down. Thank you.
Thank you. After Noah Wertheiser, we have Elizabeth Hallett, Linda Adams, and Debbie Neiswander.
Good evening. I think I'm actually supposed to start with a disclosure that I'm on 2 different city commissions and that this isn't representative of either of those. So thank you. Good evening. I want to address several concerns shared by many residents of the expanding the enhanced law enforcement area. First off, I don't like leaf blowers. They're loud and they're disruptive, but they do serve a purpose and they do exactly what they're designed to do, which is to push debris from my place to somewhere else. People aren't leaves, but this policy does function as if they were. It pushes the problem out of sight instead of solving it. I think that somebody addressing, some have said that addressing behavior is the purpose of this ordinance and not identity, and I appreciate that intent, but the policy doesn't reflect that. If this were truly about behavior, then behavioral health services would be integral to the process and to the ordinance itself. They're not. It's troubling that the plan would be to fast track these cases solely to enforce the ELEA. Exceptions to normal court process should be reserved for offenses that threaten public safety only. Elevating minor violations like open containers will only deepen the court backlog already cited by the police and city attorney. The materials provided in the packet do not demonstrate that violations would have been prevented if people had been expelled. It only says that they would not have taken place in that area. This initiative is about creating lasting safety. It's not about approving appearances. If we displace issues to other neighborhoods, then what do? Draw another boundary or lower the threshold to a single violation? That's prevention. That's not prevention. It's a game of whack-a-mole that treats symptoms while leaving causes untouched. Please reject this proposal and invest instead in proven partnered public safety strategies, including outreach response. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Hallett? Okay. Linda Adams?
Councilors, I want you to hold our city's vision in your mind and in your heart and consider the larger question of whether this ordinance should be discarded altogether. We declare ourselves to be a unique and caring city, one that is welcoming to all with a focus on inclusion and innovation. But tonight, the proposed plan for changes to the Enhanced Law Enforcement Area Ordinance directly contradicts these values. Our city vision promises that we are open to new ideas and innovation, but what is innovative about this proposal? Nothing. It is a tired, old strategy that has failed to solve homelessness in countless other communities. True innovation means investing in human capital, fair wages, mental health services, affordable housing, and real support, not creating more police-enforced zones and extrajudicial punishment. Then there's our commitment to inclusion and equity. How can we claim to be an inclusive community when we are creating zones designed to target and to expel our most vulnerable neighbors? We are labeling people as outsiders based on their housing status. Look at the data. This policy does not foster mutual respect. It fosters division and fear. And finally, our vision speaks to a positive economic future. This proposal creates a system of fines and arrests that traps people in a cycle of poverty and makes it even harder for them to find stability in work. A healthy community and a vibrant economy comes from helping all people, not from pushing our problems out of sight. The proposed ELIA changes are not a reflection of our values, nor do they promote or nurture belonging and inclusion. I urge you to vote no on this proposal. Make your choice to ensure that it represents one step on a path that truly reflects the heart and soul of Ashland, a path of compassion, and a path that doesn't just give lip service to welcoming everyone.
Thank you. After Debbie Neiswander, we have Eric Novickis, Naba Goldfeder, and Torin McKnight.
So Debbie Nicewander here. So in the ordinance that I'm looking at, the proposed ordinance, it doesn't give the length of time for the expulsion, like the 3 months, 6 months, or whatever. So I'm kind of curious about that, because if it's a criminal charge and they go through the court system, by the time that's over, more likely the expulsion period will be over as well. Anyway, so you did clarify a few things. I did want to say that there are 5 meals in Lithia Park within 1 week. So foot traffic is going to be necessary. Hey, looking at the process for judicial review, I see a problem with that, because if they were to go to the hearing, when the officer does, they have to kind of explain their situation. Same thing goes for the appeal process. And well, they can incriminate themselves. When I'm in court for an arraignment hearing, the judge won't let them speak to the incident until the case is resolved. So I don't know how that's going to work, because it's the same judge that's going to hear it. So how can they defend themselves without incriminating themselves? I have an issue with that. Also, I just want to touch briefly on the civil expulsion for the parks. Now, our officers are taking it upon themselves. When somebody is cited for a violation in one park, they are expelling them from all parks. Okay, that's kind of one of the only public places for these folks to be. And I just wanted you to know that it's also where our only public restrooms are located. So I have an issue with that. Also, in our park civil expulsion, prohibited camping is part of it, and so is a dog license. So it'd be nice if you all can get together and come up with some more consistency. I gave you some more data. You're going to have to go through it yourselves. I've had a rough day.
Thank you.
Yeah, Eric Novickis, Ashland. Yeah, I'll just start by saying that it's difficult for me to come in this room anymore. I spoke my mind, and I felt like my personal human dignity was betrayed. My words were spun upside down, and I was attacked within this chamber by our professional police chief, called violent names and provoked. And to hear his language now, where he's attacking, or he's supposed to be the leader of his rank and file and expect these people to act any differently, I find that very difficult to believe. I'd like to begin by bringing up the issue of fire. What we're doing is we're moving people around, and we really need to address this issue of homelessness because of the risk of fire. It's a serious existential risk that our entire community faces, and if we don't address this holistically, we will see our community burn. And the proposal to push people around in this way, to exclude them, to not find place for them, it's putting our community at risk of fire. We're just pushing people into more and more marginal locations. I don't agree with the current ordinance, but the police chief has already testified that it has worked. And I think that it is somewhat constitutionally sound in that it maintains the presumption of innocence. People are considered innocent until proven guilty. And in deference to Jeff Dahl, this doesn't go back to the US Constitution. This goes back to the Magna Carta. This is the basis of our legal foundations, the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. So these proposals were, am I out of time?
No, you're good.
I could go over the nuts and bolts of this. I'm sorry, I'm out of time. I strongly encourage you to listen to the community and to vote no on this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Council, Mayor, thank you for hearing me. My name is Nava Goldfeder. I live in Talent and I work in Ashland as a street nurse for OHSU street nursing team. The views I'm expressing are my own.
Hold on just a moment. Alyssa, can we give her some more time?
Mike Moore, yeah, thank you. Testifying is not my forte, but taking care of our community is. And it severely distresses me that we are potentially pushing the already marginalized members of our community into the margins. I practice street medicine all over town, primarily at ORA, the library, in the parks, at various meals. I'm glad it was addressed that there will be something, if the ordinance is to pass, to protect those spaces because they are important. And our community members don't generally have the forethought to go before a court and tell a judge where they need to be at any given time. I did want to bring in the WHO in identifying social inclusion and exclusion, stated that exclusion consists of dynamic, multidimensional processes driven by unequal power relationships interacting across economic, political, social, and cultural dimensions. Individual, household, group, community, country, and global levels. This results in a continuum of inclusion and exclusion characterized by unequal access to resources, capabilities, and rights, which leads to health inadequacies. We are not serving our population by policing further. What we, in my opinion, need are more social services, we need more healthcare, and we need housing. It is basic human right and is our primary need and goal. I also would like to bring the council's own Social Equity and Racial Justice Advisory Committee lists its responsibility to recommend efforts to increase economic opportunities for our marginalized populations, and I challenge the council that this is doing the opposite. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. After Torrin McKnight, we have Leona Stovall, Joshua Palmer, and Kate Hartzell.
Hello, my name is Torrin McKnight. Ashland claims to be an empathetic, compassionate, and progressive city, and I don't feel that this proposal from Ty O'Meara embodies those ideals. Our country is currently in the midst of a fascist takeover. Trump has ordered the involuntary commitment of people with disabilities, poor people, and unhoused people. Trump has taken over DC and attempted the same in cities around the country. Any further crackdowns of poor and unhoused people is falling in line with Trump's agenda. It is not empathetic, and it is not helping the community. I urge all of you to fund resources and services that help people. Focusing on solving perceived problems in the community with policing is not the answer. If you are concerned about theft, violence, trash, drug use, I personally don't think all of those are issues, to be clear, but I digress. You should, the solution is addressing the basic needs of people. Not expelling them, not arresting them, not fining them. The answer is services and compassion. If you refuse to fund and protect services to the city's most vulnerable people, and instead focus on using police, then you are simply taking a page out of the fascist playbook. Please do not consider any proposal from Chief Ty O'Meara or the police in general. They are not the answer, and they are not protecting people, they are causing harm. Instead, create lasting solutions that tackle the root problems people experience, such as lack of housing, food, medical care, and much more. Chief O'Meara is now trying to backpedal on his statement of this being the Medford model because he knows that it makes him look like a fascist, which he is. Regardless of what he calls this amendment or the ordinance in general.
Hold on, sir.
From personal attacks.
Please refrain from personal attacks.
Regardless of what he calls this amendment or this ordinance in general, it is harmful, it is dangerous, and it is part of the fascist takeover of this country. Chief O'Meara is not progressive or compassionate. He's a fascist with mediocre PR.
Sir,
and he wants to eradicate unhoused people from the city.
Thank you very much for your testimony. You are finished now.
Empathy over violence, services
over people,
you are done. Solutions
you
over
are finished. Thank you very much.
And he's a fascist.
Sir, yes.
not under arrest, he just has to leave for the night.
Yes. No. With the nose ring.
Yes, that one.
I'm being removed for expressing my First Amendment rights.
You're being removed for disorderly conduct and disorderly speech.
Sir, thank you very much. I will remind everyone in this space that this is a place of orderly conduct. This is a place where people govern themselves. This is a place where we offer respect for each other's opinion. And this is a place where we respect the attitudes of other people, and we give space for that. This is not a place where we attack people personally. This is not a place where we do anything that rips at the fabric of our community. This is a hard conversation, and we are grown-ups. And we are going to have a hard conversation as grown-ups. Carry on. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leona Stovall. I am the Director of Outreach for Stabenwagen and a concerned citizen of Jackson County. I'm here to speak out against this proposed amendment. These views expressed are my own. As an employee of Stabenwagen and Jackson County, or as a Jackson County resident, I work closely with unhoused folks across Jackson County and in Ashland specifically, and I'm immensely troubled by the proposed amendment. Allowing cops to petition the municipal court to ban persons from particular areas of the city only increases cycles of incarceration and poverty that do nothing to protect the folks in Ashland living on the street. Outlawing basic survival mechanisms, particularly with incredibly general and unspecific language such as, quote, scattering rubbish and, quote, unnecessary noise, only further dehumanizes the unhoused folks in our communities and creates conditions that make it impossible for people to live. Ashland's houselessness problem is profound and one that requires attention. And unfortunately, like many places throughout the country, this response has been to further criminalize houselessness, making it against the law to engage in basic life-sustaining activities that are associated with being unhoused. These laws and this proposed amendment punish and dehumanize people who are already vulnerable. This approach does nothing to address the causes of houselessness, and in fact, it exacerbates an already tenuous situation by creating new hardships and barriers to overcome. Constant displacement, arrest, jail time, and court appearances get in the way of going to school, finding and maintaining work, attending social service appointments, and other activities that can improve one's situation. Second, incarceration increases the likelihood that a person will become and stay houseless because of its negative effects on employability, family ties, and other defenses against houselessness. This amendment is a smokescreen to continue to punch down on some of the most marginalized folks in our community. Instead of discussing an expedited process to further criminalize poor people, the City Council of Ashland should be discussing ways to protect poor and unhoused people from further cycles of poverty and criminalization. I'm really disgusted by this amendment. You have the opportunity to do better, so do better.
Thank you.
How's my voice? Okay, cool. Thank you. My name is Joshua Palmer, and I'm a resident here in Ashland. I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I'm a member of the First Presbyterian Church of Ashland. And I've been really proud of their model and how they've really stepped up in the community to take care of the unhoused. And so, for example, in the wintertime, I was able to go and support the emergency warming shelter there, which I think in a later council meeting, I'd love to discuss the details of that because there's some, I think there could be more spaciousness for, what the temperature threshold constitutes emergency warming, what kind of funds are available. So I would suggest taking funds away from the police and putting them towards emergency warming shelters and paying their staff well. And so I was able to receive some hourly wage for some of my work, and I'm happy to volunteer, but it also helps to get paid because these kind of positions are really important to keep people safe, and this is more the winter time. But at all times, really, I just think there's needs more funding, as my collaborators and colleagues have shared, that just towards social welfare and actually caring for people. And so it breaks my heart when I heard about this. There's already so much of a police state takeover of this country, and it breaks my heart to think that that kind of insidiousness would bleed its way into this darling town of Ashland that I really feel safe for most part. And so I just really pray that the council members listen to their hearts, come to what makes sense, listen to the people who are speaking out, and reallocate resources away from policing that's proven not to work and put them towards things that do work, and that keeps people safe. And one last thing in the last 15 seconds is it's interesting to learn about the Dusk to Dawn camping, and I'd be interested to talk more about that later and hopefully an expansion of those services. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Kate Hartzell, and I submitted something today, a letter today. If you would do me the honor of reading it at some point in the future, I know you've got a lot of material. In opposition to the fundamental principles of this democracy, due process, presumption of innocence, this body is creating a parallel process for how we treat certain people for nonviolent violations. And I stand opposed, as many community members do. I echo the irony that Eric mentioned, that the chief's own susceptibility to be provoked by words played out against the stated principles that he gave you tonight on restorative justice. Law enforcement officers are human beings, sir. I have a family full of them. They are not faultless, as any of us are. It's hard to hear in these chambers, so I wasn't able to hear whether, Mr. Kaplan, you were able to resolve the issue about judge discretion, but I would like to learn more about that. In this week, there were 2 suspicious lynchings in Mississippi, one of a homeless man and one of an African-American man. In this community in the last 2 weeks, there was a shooting of a homeless man. What you are doing is not exclusive or in isolation of the hatred that is happening in this country and the targeting of vulnerable populations. So what you are doing with this is aligning, in the eyes of many in this community, you are aligning what you put in place for this community to be in direct alignment with that, and shame if you carry out with it. One way that people have of standing in support of these marginalized, vulnerable populations is to stand next to them. You see it tonight. You will see it every day if you adopt this kind of legislation. If this were a remodel, the contractor would tell you to scrap the project and start over.
Thank you. I close the public hearing. Are there any further questions of staff? Okay, the floor is open for a motion. Councilor Bloom?
Yes, I move council approve Ordinance 3273, an ordinance amending the enhanced law enforcement expulsion process as outlined in AMC 10.120, and to move to second reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Bloom, would you like to care to speak to your motion?
Please. I want to close this discussion by bringing us back to the heart of what this ordinance is and what it isn't. This is not about creating new enforcement zones. It's not about criminalizing homelessness. And it's certainly not about denying anyone access to essential services like food, medicine, or work. Those rights are explicitly protected. What this ordinance is about is closing a gap in our process that has, frankly, allowed chronic violators to game the system. Right now, expulsion from the ILEA requires multiple convictions. And as we've heard, those cases can take months, even over a year, to resolve. Meanwhile, our municipal court is already carrying a significant caseload, with more new cases filed each month than are being adjudicated. That backlog means repeat offenders continue cycling through, piling up charges, and draining community resources while waiting for resolution. This ordinance ensures that when someone demonstrates persistent, unlawful behavior, officers can petition the municipal judge more quickly based on charges, not delayed convictions. And the safeguards here are critical. Judicial review remains at the center of this process. Defendants are notified, given the opportunity to contest, and allowed to appeal without cost. Expulsions are limited in scope and time, between 3 months and a year. Variances are available where fairness and justice require them, and the ordinance is modeled on language that has already been upheld in federal court. This is a measured, legally sound, and equitable approach. It provides officers with a tool to address repeat negative behavior sooner, while ensuring the courts remain the arbiter of fairness. And it sends a clear message to our residents visitors, and businesses, that we value both public safety and due process.
Councillor Dale?
In addition to all that, let's see. We heard about welcoming, inclusion, and hope. I think those are verbatim. I wrote that down as it was said. Could not agree more. Could not agree more. Absolutely. We talked about needing money for behavioral health services. Absolutely. 100%. You bet. I mean, it's what we struggle with. We sit in here, we talk about affordable housing, we talk about wildfire mitigation, we talk about parks, we talk about senior services, childcare. Yes, we're struggling with all of this. And yeah, absolutely. If the funding were there, you bet, sign us up. We're there. But this is about trying to figure out how to balance all of these things. And going back to that, inclusion for all. This, I just don't see where this is summary exclusion for people that are, for anybody, and especially those that are just trying. That's the hardest for some. I don't know. I hesitate to share. I have personal experience with this. I have family members that have experienced this. I know. But then at the same time, we see an example of complete disregard, willful flaunting of basic rights of others, and is asked to leave. Did we lose due process there? Or did we respect the rights of others that are in this room as well, as we all need to do? So this is not rounding people up. We talked yesterday at a study session. This is Ashland. You're darn right this is Ashland. And we're doing our best. We really are. And we're holding people accountable. And we're holding our institutions accountable as best as possible. But it's on all of us. And when I look at just repeat violators that do not care about the health and safety of others, especially their most vulnerable, I'm sorry. I draw a line there. Do you want to talk about empathy and compassion? This may not seem like it to many of you. It is to me. This is extremely difficult. And I'm sure this council has no problem holding all of our departments accountable, as we absolutely should, as we should be held accountable by you. But I don't know where to go, okay? I mean, just the misinformation out there, the accusations, the personal attacks. I mean, Chief didn't bring this to us. We asked him to bring it. This is on us. This is 7 of us up here. We're trying. So, this is not something that I'm sitting here like, yeah, I'm going to go home tonight and take pleasure in this vote. Absolutely not. But I'm trying to think about everybody. I'm trying to think about family members. I'm trying to think about all of this community. And I'm just doing the best we can here. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councillor DeCane?
Mayor. Oh, goodness. So, this is a hard decision, I agree. And when it comes to the ELIA, first off, I appreciate all the emails, everybody coming in and voicing their opinion and using their First Amendment right. When it comes to the ELIA, this is one of the hardest things that I had to read and go through and digest and think about. And when I hear the shares that have been in this chamber today, I can check every box. I'm Black, I'm queer, and thank God I have decades of recovery. I have not been unhoused, but I get it. This is not an easy decision to make, and I support the ELIA. We need to be held accountable. We all live here. We're all in Ashland together. I heard about the situation with homelessness. If I had a magic wand, or anybody in this room, and we could strike it and homelessness would be gone, we'd all do it. I don't have that power. Ashland does not have the power or the money to do that. One thing that I believe, we all have the right to live with dignity. How do we get there? We have to hold each other accountable. I believe that looking at moving forward, I am a believer of working with our regional partners. We have the mobile crisis unit that we could lean on and call when somebody is having an episode. They have EMTs that ride along with them on a consistent basis. And when people are in their addiction, they can get help. When people are having a mental episode, they can get help. Is this going to solve everything? No. However, for me, I listen to everybody in Ashland, and I've heard the pros and I've heard the cons. So I just felt like, I want you to know I get it, I understand. I came out once, now I came out again. And the good news is that I am in recovery. So I get it. And I'm going to hold us all accountable. And please do the same to me. And I do support the ELIA.
Councillor Kaplan?
Yeah, I'd like to offer some amendments to clarify some of the issues that were discussed today. Is this the appropriate time to do it?
Yes, it is.
Do you want me should I do them one at a time?
One at a time, please.
Yep. Okay, the first one I would like to
It's okay.
to clarify in section 10.120.020A that the three charges must be separate incidents on different days.
Second.
Councillor Kaplan?
No, I think we discussed the reason for doing it, and just for clarity.
Councillor Bloom?
I concur.
Any further discussion?
Just a quick comment, Mayor. Completely agree.
Councillor Hanson?
Overall discussion?
We're only on this amendment. Any further discussion on the amendment? Is it clear what the amendment is to separate the violations? Roll call, please. Alyssa, on the amendment?
Mayor, may I?
Yes.
Discussion on that topic. I had a long conversation today with the chief. Thank you for being so forthcoming on that. And I had a couple of questions about how do we identify that, and it might be appropriate to either ask the subject matter expert or legal if it should be a separate call number, or if it's going to be a separate actual date. Like it might be nice to clarify that if we're going to amend what's on the table.
I was suggesting separate dates, but I'm open to the appropriate suggestion. I wasn't really proposing specific wording. I expect that you guys could come up with this for the second reading.
So we're understanding that we're looking at separate dates.
Separate dates.
Separate day, yeah, copy that. I would be in line with that to support.
Okay. Roll call, please, Alyssa, on the amendment.
Hanson,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Hale,
Yes.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Councillor Kaplan?
Got another amendment. This is having to do with the Trinity Church for social meals. This is in 10.120.040A1B to include that attending a meal provided by a social service provider is a reason for being in an ELIA.
Second.
Councillor Kaplan?
I think we've discussed it. Sandra, it's clear to staff.
Councillor Dale?
Could not agree more.
Further discussion? Councillor Bloom?
Yeah, and I'll support this as well. I do think that it's pretty clear social services, but whatever, helps make this more comfortable for people to understand.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Roll call, please, Alyssa, on the amendment.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sherrill,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Hanson. Sorry, Kaplan.
The other Hanson. Kaplan.
The other.
Yes.
Sorry. Counselor Kaplan?
Okay, the next one is 10.120.040A2. Remove the reference to traveling through, limiting traveling through as only via public transport or vehicle.
So how would that read? If you could read that.
I don't
paragraph.
have so I think it's just striking the whole section. Let me see.
Maybe Johan can help us with that, just so we're clear on what the language would be.
You just want to remove the qualifiers that it be by public
I do.
transit, right?
I do, yep.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
by car, yeah.
Yeah, second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Counselor Kaplan?
No, I think we discussed it and understand that this is not a critical element of this.
Counselor Duquesne?
No, I'm good.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Alyssa, roll call, please, on the amendment.
Bloom,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sherrill,
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Counselor Kaplan?
And then the last one is this confusion about, I don't have a citation because it's not in my ordinance copy, but clarify that acquittal of the violation or misdemeanor terminates the previously enacted expulsion. So you read something, Johan, that I think captured that, although I'd have to hear it again to be sure, but if you could put that in, that's my request.
Is there a second? Second.
Second.
Counselor Kaplan?
Yeah, I think it's logical that if the underlying violation or misdemeanor is overturned, then the person should no longer be expelled for that alleged crime.
Counselor Duquesne?
No.
Any further discussion on this amendment? Alyssa, roll call, please, on this amendment.
Dale,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Any further amendments?
No further amendments, but I'll have a statement.
Okay, so we are back now to statements on the main motion as amended. Counselor Hanson?
Thank you, Mayor. We heard a lot of public testimony this evening. I cannot support the expansion of the ELIA process. We have an ELIA. There's some data showing that it works. I think we're too close to the edge, as I said. I believe in due process. I believe in our police department's compassion, and I don't see why we would put ourselves into further risk of our unhoused population or our city. I know that there was a lot of talk here about dollars and what we would do if we had more dollars, but when we partner with ARC, with Aura, with Jackson County Mental Health, with street nurses, it doesn't cost us a dime. We need to do more of that, and we need to put more effort into regional partnerships and less effort into these kind of exercises. So it took me a while to get here. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I interviewed lawyers, unhoused, advocates on both sides, and to the residents of the south side of Ashland, I told you that we're going to keep a compassionate, firm hand and eye on the community, and I promise, and hold me accountable, but this is a slippery slope. We see it on the federal level. It's gotten way out of hand. It's gross. And this community has had a lot of testimony tonight. Not a single person in our community was here tonight to speak in favor of this. Not a single person. Thank you.
Counselor Kaplan, I realize I cut you off. You were doing your amendments, but you hadn't had a chance to make a statement. Did you want to make a statement? Okay, go ahead. Yes, you'll be next.
Yes, thank you. So I have expressed a lot of skepticism of this ever since it was first brought to us last November, I think it was. We've seen a dramatic change from that period. I think, and I appreciate the chief's acknowledgement that was a misstep, and I think we all agreed with that. The whole council agreed with that and asked him to come back with something else. I remain skeptical about the evidentiary base for this actually working. I've asked many times for how would we define success? What is it what are the metrics that we would use to see that this is successful? We've never had any response to that. It seems to me much more likely that it simply is going to push people around or lead people to inadvertently become criminalized because they've entered into an ELIA after having been expelled from it, maybe because they are an alcoholic. And we talked about a specific hypothetical, and I understand the city attorney's response to that. But the underlying fact remains that somebody who has a serious problem could simply be criminalized with a misdemeanor trespassing for that. So I think that's not the appropriate path for us. So I won't be supporting this. And if it does pass, I would like to see some data. I think we have an opportunity to present some data. I've been pretty clear that I think the data that have been presented are, not very persuasive, not really answering the question at hand. So I would, if this passes, I would like to ask that this council take some time to help our chief to define exactly what data could be more persuasive. But in any case, I'll be voting no on this.
Councillor Sherrill?
Yeah, thank you. This has been a tough one. I appreciate everybody's input. I've been stopped on the street, in the grocery store, phone calls, text messages, emails, and it's not an easy spot to sit up here, and I just want people to know that and hear that coming from another person. I also think that we can be welcoming, we can be inclusive, we can be fair, and we can have rules. If I don't follow the rules in my business, in my life, there's consequences for that. I've worked alongside this department. I spent 15 years in public safety as a fireman in multiple roles. I can assure you that when you show up on scene, no matter what the call, there's usually pretty clear evidence that it's either a medical emergency or it could be a police emergency. I've seen this department work very well with the community. I've seen them work. I've been involved with this police department voluntarily and involuntarily. I've been unhoused in this town. I think I have a unique perspective, and it's still a really tough vote. I'm going to support this, and I'm also going to ask for really good data, really good record keeping. I want the record to know that I would personally at least like to see a quarterly report of how this is working, and if it's not working, we need to adjust it or go a different direction. I think that's really important. And I don't have the exact place marked to amend this, but I think that the stakeholders and the chief especially have been very diplomatic and have brought this to us in good faith and have made it more and more liberal. And you mentioned tonight potentially taking out the camping as a qualifying offense for instant expulsion. And I don't know if that is possible to amend, and I might defer to the city attorney on that.
The camping ordinance has already been taken out. It's not a qualifying violation for the ELIA.
Sorry, Johan, I think what he's referring to is that third offense camping is a misdemeanor, and that would be caught up in the 2 or more non-person misdemeanor crimes. And if that is a sticking point for somebody, then I don't mind giving that up. If that's
You'd need a motion to amend to add
Yeah,
that.
you can make a motion to amend if you'd like.
I would like to make a motion to amend, if I can pause my statement and make a motion to amend. Again, that's another good faith, I think, to bring that in. And I think that would also help the community. I would like to make that motion.
So
Second.
can you speak to it?
Yeah, can we amend the current?
No. Go ahead.
I move to amend the current motion to include removing camping as the second qualifying offense that would lead to expulsion.
Second.
Did you want to speak any further to your motion?
And the rest, I think, goes without, I think I've covered everything else that I wanted to say.
The second?
No, I don't.
Who had the second?
I did.
Oh, yeah, Councilor Duquesne.
Ditto, I don't need to speak.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Alyssa, roll call, please, on the amendment.
Hanson,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Kaplan.
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Sherrod.
Yes.
And then did you have any final comments, Councilor?
No, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
So everyone has spoken. Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Sherrod.
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Bloom.
Yes.
Kaplan.
No.
Duquesne.
Yes.
Hanson.
No.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. And thank you to everyone who came out this evening. As I mentioned before, these conversations are not easy. We are grappling with a lot of issues that we're trying to solve. Right now, what I'd like to do is take a short recess. If councilors can be back in their seats at 8:20. It has been a long evening between the executive session and the first part of this meeting. Then we'll come back together and take up the last two agenda items. Please be back in your seats by 8:20 by this clock on my right.
Mayor, I'm sorry, can we have like 2 more minutes?
Sure. We'll have 2 more minutes. Oh, okay. Before we move on to our next agenda item, I heard some discussion towards the end of the last ordinance element around wanting some ongoing conversation with in terms of data and how the program is, how this new ordinance is working. Is there interest in finalizing that request to staff? Councilor Bloom.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion to direct staff to that effect and include something about data in there that would allow flexibility for those requests to happen at each kind of quarterly report.
So does that sound appropriate? A quarterly updates for the time being, and we'll determine at a later date if there's a time where we want to change that timing. But for now, it'd be quarterly.
Yeah.
So go ahead and make your motion, Councilor.
Yeah, thank you. I move to direct staff to present a quarterly report on the ELIA, both CAP East and West, and to allow opportunities for council members to request specific data for our information.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Bloom? Councilor Sherrill?
Yeah, I just think it's important that we don't just make hard decisions and then move on to the next thing. We need to analyze if the decisions we make are working. And if we put those in a directive, we won't forget.
Any further discussion? Councilor Kaplan?
I want to strongly thank both my councilor colleagues for the motion and for the initiative, and I strongly support that as well.
Any further discussion?
Yes,
Sabrina?
I just have a clarifying question. So asking for data, I think and I understand that we maybe need to think about what data we're asking for, but is there something specific? Because we've been told that the data we're providing is not adequate. So I think if we can just get a little more direction on what data you're looking for, that would be helpful.
May I speak to that?
Sure.
Yeah, that's why I left it open-ended, that counselors at each quarterly report we could give idea of, and deliberate what we'd like to see. And obviously it wouldn't be available at that quarter, but the next quarter, then we could start getting it and kind of build out a database.
So initially, it would seem that you're looking at how many people have been put forward to the court for exclusion, how many of those have turned into exclusions.
Yeah.
I think that's a basic level of reporting, and then the council can ask for additional
And one
data.
thought is to also add that to the court report that's coming. So instead of quarterly, it could just be a monthly readout from the judge. And then as we add additional data, that'd be more in the APD realm, just a thought, I think.
Yeah. Councilor Hanson?
Thank you. How do we in the community know if a constitutional lawsuit's been filed against us?
You'll know because you'll have an executive session about it.
I would like data on how many lawsuits are filed against us.
Well, Johan, would you like to address that?
I mean, all lawsuits are public, so the second it happens, and I guarantee you if one did get filed, it would make the news, because that's typically how these things work, but yeah.
Well, we don't hear about so many of the HR issues until they're, in the executive session. But I would hate for our community to not know full transparency. Thank you.
Yeah, those are public documents. Okay, so is it clear what we are looking for here? If you could just go ahead and recap, if you would, Councilor Bloom, so that we're all...
Yeah, just moving to direct staff to provide and present a quarterly report on the ELIA, CAP East and West, initially to include the number of cases that are coming forward that would be, fall under those qualifications. And I think that it'd be appropriate to say both qualifying violations as they happen, and then the actual expulsion as well, so that we can really have a better picture. And then to allow for council the opportunity to request more data to be given in future reports as we move through those.
Councillor Kaplan.
Yes, so I think that, thank you, Councillor Bloom, for that clarification. As I'm trying to think through what kinds of things I would actually like to see, one of my big concerns is that this simply pushes behavior elsewhere. So I'd like information on qualifying violations in each of the alias, and then also outside of the alias, particularly adjacent to the alias, to see whether, in fact, we're just moving the problem around or not.
Is that appropriate?
Yeah,
Is that
absolutely,
fine with
absolutely.
the interview?
Yeah.
So what maybe we can do is, if this sounds appropriate, to have counselors send to Sabrina specific data that you'd like to see. That doesn't have to be a council level decision unless something that is really difficult and is going to take a lot of time, in which case she'll bring that back to us to get guidance from the entire council. Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious, is there a way for us to track how many times our regional partners have been involved with police interactions in the ELIA? You know, we have so many partners that have volunteered to help with us, and we haven't heard like numerically, like how many times our police department is tapping those resources.
I don't know how easy that data would be, but I think this is the point of asking that question of Sabrina. She can gather all of the data requests and find out how difficult is that data to get to. Anything that is going to take an inordinate amount of time will have to come back and have discussion at council, and the full council will have to ask for any data that's going to take extra collection efforts.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my ask is that we see how we're doing with working with our regional partners, how many times, we called, what's the direct line for mental health emergency, 988, and I think that will help paint a picture as to how we're not just leaning on one tool, but we're leaning on our regional partners to help with mental health as well.
Okay. So we don't want to take a lot of time going into the details of the data here because we have another major agenda item. Councillor Sherrill.
Yeah, just to capture on the record, sorry I wasn't more clear about the data I'm looking for, but for the record, it's going to be how many people are getting expelled, and then what is the actual appeal process? There was a good point that was brought up tonight. Should we be providing them counsel? Are they just incriminating themselves? Like, is it actually effective for somebody to appeal? Like, if we see that data, I want to see it through the end of the court. I want to see it come out the sausage machine at the end and see where it's broken.
Okay, so we have the motion on the floor to put in place a process that will bring a quarterly report to this body, and the councilors are invited to make specific requests of data of Sabrina in terms of specific data that they would like to see in those reports. She will bring anything back to us that takes more than the 2-hour requirement that we have, and that's where we're at. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion before we take a vote? Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Sherrill?
Yes.
So we are now to Resolution 2025-26, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2026 miscellaneous fees and charges schedule. Sabrina?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is back before you tonight. We have some cleanup elements as well as the Pioneer Hall and Community Center rental fees coming back to you. Municipal court fees, those were an oversight in the first books. Traditionally, we have had them. We have budgeted for revenue from those fees, and so we are fixing our oopsie with those fees. Clarification on public records request process. We are aligning with the state law process for that. And then Pioneer Hall and Community Center rental fees. Council recalls last time they came forward, council gave the direction to take it back to the Parks Commission for review. The Parks Commission has done that, looking at affordability and lowering the rates. And before you have the rates as they've approved them for consideration tonight. And that is all. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Okay. The floor is open for a motion. Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 2025-26 to add additional miscellaneous fees and charges.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the Parks Commission for laboring through these and taking care of business. I was able to watch the meetings, and I'm grateful that we're moving forward here and look forward to utilizing the Pioneer Hall and Community Center in the near future.
Councillor Kaplan.
Yeah, thanks. Likewise, I appreciate the work of the Parks Department and then the Parks Commissioners to really go through the process and try to come up with something that strikes a better balance of affordability and clarity, and for make these spaces accessible to our community members.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Duquesne?
Thank you, Mayor. When I look at the math on this for the community center, and it comes to almost $400 when it's $125 and then $50 every hour after that. And if you have an event for 4 hours and then an hour setup and an hour cleanup, that's $380 before you even get started. And I believe it said in here somewhere that there's I don't know, the cleanup fee, the deposit, do you get reimbursed? Is it like a deposit? I didn't see that. It also mentions there's other places where the community could have events. I don't need to talk to, this is what it doesn't say, and here the other locations where you can go and have events that are accessible to the community. Doesn't say how much it is, how big it is. So I don't support this, no.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Alyssa.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sherrill,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Bloom,
No.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Duquesne.
No.
Okay, we have one item that was moved from the consent agenda. We are now to unfinished business, so we will take that up. Councillor Hanson?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank Mr. Leninger for applying for the Planning Commission appointment. However, there's no information on him or his background in the packet, and I reached out to him today, and it was short notice. I didn't get a hold of him. So I'd like to hold this over for another opportunity to look at his application and have an opportunity to speak with him should he so choose.
So the application is missing in the packet?
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so yes, the council doesn't have the information they need in order to consent to this appointment. So do we need a motion for that, or do we just pull it?
You can just pull it and we'll bring it back at the next
Bring it
meeting.
back at the next meeting? Okay.
Again, I appreciate the service that he's signing up for. I just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. City manager report.
All right. A few things. So I would welcome you all to look at the city manager report in the packet. There are some links to some interesting things, including some listen in, some interviews that we've had about the Alameda fire with interim Chief Razor and Kelly Burns, which I think are pretty interesting. Our city e-newsletter is live, so that goes out about every 2 weeks. So we recommend signing up for that. It comes directly into your inbox, and that's a great way to keep apprised of what's going on within the city. Just a reminder that we do have counselors that have office hours at City Hall that you can come by and visit, as well as the city manager's office on Thursdays. Our next coffee and conversation will be Tuesday, October 14th at 2:30 at North Mountain Park Pavilion. We look forward to seeing everyone there. On the third page, you will see a shockingly clean oxidation tank from our wastewater treatment. I don't think we've cleaned that out since, I'm probably gonna get this wrong, the 90s. We have a shocking photo of one of our wonderful wastewater employees standing next to a large pile of wastewater items as they clean it out. So I just want to commend them for their effort there, and the fact that they do take care of us in that way. And I am thankful and grateful that it is not I, and that they are so passionate about their job. So I wanted to recognize them there. And with that, some news with AFN. They are working on a 45-unit Donald E. Lewis retirement community, setting up fiber service there. So that's exciting. We hope to get some additional residents enrolled with AFN. And then we do have an open house coming up for Ashland Fire and Rescue on October 10th from 2 to 6 at Fire Station 2, that we welcome the community to come take a tour of the fire station. And then tomorrow, our OLLI course starts again with our fall coverage of general government operations, and this time with added tours. So we'll be able to take our OLLI course folks on tours of the fire station, some of our treatment facilities, 90 North, et cetera. So I'm hoping that they enjoy that, not just solely on Zoom this time. So we'll see how it goes. And then we are preparing a spring course that is looking at land use, deep diving into community development and land use. So I think that'll be a good one. If you've ever met Brandon Goldman, he's going to lead the charge on that. Knows probably forgotten more than I'll ever know about land use. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Duquesne.
I wanted to know if the city manager could give us an update at 2200.
So if you've been by there, construction is hot and heavy. So they were on the roof this morning doing things. They've been pouring the floors. I think most of the plumbing is in. All of the fire risers and et cetera for the sprinkler system is going in. We're looking about probably mid-November for wrapping everything up at this point, with supply chain concerns around shower pans and a couple other items, but it is moving along quite nicely. So yeah, if you go by, you will see some activity there during the week.
So our final agenda item is any reports and other business from council members or reports on their council liaison assignments. Anything anyone wants to share? Councilor Dale.
I think both Councilor Duquesne and I would like to share. I'll of course turn it over to you, but we had a phenomenal meeting at the Social Equity and Racial Justice Committee. Micah Bellick came and we're moving forward with his artwork. It was I personally hadn't realized how kind of stalled that project had become. So we spent a lot of time, and the committee members spent a lot of time digging into how we can move that forward more quickly and actively. And he's just a phenomenal human being to be around, and it was actually a lot of fun. So that was kind of the highlight of that. I haven't actually been to others. I've been traveling, and others have been canceled due to lack of quorum. But that was really a highlight from the past time we've been able to speak. So yeah.
Yeah, I could piggyback on there. Micah truly brings the energy, right? And so I thought that was a very, he presents very well. I can't wait until we can touch it and go there and see it. So I'm excited about that and working with the parks to make that happen too. And something else that Serge is doing is the survey. The surveys come together. The survey, I believe legal has seen the survey, and right now it's just the process of getting the survey out there, up on the city's website, links to other websites, so that I think Serge was talking about a 60-day survey time to get information in. Excited about that. So, and then if I can kind of transition into PAC. PAC is Public Arts, doing great stuff. Part of the consent agenda was the 3 ODOT boxes that they got the thumbs up for. We have the best local artists. And so some of the people who weren't chosen, PAC decided to hold on to their artwork so that we can reference it at another time. Great artists. One box is on Tolman Creek in Ashland, bright and beautiful. Another one is at Walker and Ashland, and another is at Mountain and Siskiyou. Beautiful art's going to be installed. Go by, take a picture. It's great.
Councilor Hanson.
We've had a long break, so some business has happened in the Parks Department. I just want to highlight the East Main Park had several delays and revelations and challenges to work through in getting the East Main Park over the hurdle of some of the requirements for annexing in that piece of property. Public meetings were held, and basically there was a budget shortfall in discovery that the road frontage from essentially Tolman Creek over to Clay Street needed to be fully redone up to city standards to have a sidewalk and a bike lane. And estimates of that came in at somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000. And some different options were presented, but ultimately Director Houston and staff and the commission went back to the drawing board with city manager and worked as a city manager and deputy city manager to find some money from the TLT funds to help, because this is also an economic development project as well as a neighborhood park, to find the additional money, and it's been approved by the commission, and it'll be coming to us in a future council meeting for approval. But pending that approval, we should be breaking ground in spring of 2026. So that's exciting. And then on the Transportation Advisory Committee, some highlights from our last meeting, that we're reviewing the crash and near miss data. So really encourage the community to report those near misses, so we can look at problem areas and find safer solutions. And there's an update for the transportation system planning that's happening and underway. We're getting excited for. There's going to be a lot of public engagement there, and that's what I got. Thanks.
Any other comments? Any shares? So I just wanted to mention that you'll notice that for the October 6th, that Monday evening, we are not having a study session. And that is to allow counselors and myself and anyone else who is interested to go to the Bomer Theater and participate in that conversation with Professor John A. Powell. So for the last several months, Counselor Duquesne and I have been working with a group of local leaders to determine what kind of a framework we could create to bring the community together to solve some of these significant challenges. We see them out on the horizon. Some of them have already landed, but there's a lot of strain across the community, and what we're looking to do is figure out what is that way that we can come together and work together to solve some of these very difficult challenges that are likely to hit in multiple parts of our community. And so this group has done is brought John Powell into town to help us kickstart the community conversation. So I would invite anyone who would like to attend. It will be at the Angus Bomer Theater, 6:30 to 8:30 on October 6th. You must pre-register because they have a certain number of seats, but feel free to reach out. I know it's out on Facebook. It's being advertised in different places, but anyone who is interested who can't find it, please just reach out directly to me and I will get you the registration link. And my information is on the City Council website in terms of email. Okay. And with that, the floor is open for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned.